guess we shouldn't.
Hi, this is Susan.
And Chris Marie.
We're glad to have you with us. And hopefully you can hear us. And we are here in Whitefish, Montana, live. We just had a little bit of a computer glitch.
We're like recovering from our computer.
So we have recovered. We may as well own up to that because it's a little flustering when it happens. But we got unstuck pretty quickly, which is good. So welcome to today's talk on getting unstuck. This is something that we are both quite passionate about. And we want to, first off, give you a few tips about how to have the best learning experience.
Yeah. So what we find is helpful, it's so easy to be distracted with your cell phone or you know, your email plinking in. And so we just encourage you to turn off anything that's operating in the background, silence your cell phone, close your door, because we're not going to have you actually do some interactive experiences. And so we want you to be able to sink in and make that happen. And Susan's actually hiding our phone because we didn't actually take our phone out of the room. So she's doing that. And also, it'd be great if you get a piece of paper and a pen, something to write with, because when we take you through a couple of experiences, we're going to have you jot down some notes. So that's just for your own benefit there. And if you want to take notes, that's fine too.
And just in case, I don't know if I said this right up front, we will be recording this and you'll get a recording afterwards, those of you that have joined us. And we know some folks were not able to be on live, so they'll also have access to that.
Yes. Okay. We'll get started. And just for those of you that know nothing about us, welcome. I am Chris Marie, and this one's over here, Susan. So they're flipped. And we
I think they can tell by the gray hair. I don't change that much between that screen and here.
And we are life coaches, business consultants, and we're just about going to publish our book coming out in the winter. We're very excited. And we started Thrive in 2002. We were working together a little bit before then. And we've spent the last 15 years focusing on relationship dynamics, conflict, business success, and individual success. And we do both in-person and virtual programs with leaders and their teams, couples in business, and individuals, and do coaching. So that's a little snapshot about us.
We also want to introduce you to
Rachel,
who will be coming in and out during our presentation here. We might see her shortly.
We're hoping she's turning on her video. There she is.
Good morning.
And Rachel will be behind the scenes at various points, hopefully coming back out. And she'll be taking in anything you punch into your screen, because we would like for you to engage in this. And there is a dialogue box where you can chat with us and with her, and she'll pass on some of the things that you're sharing.
So when you type, not punch, but type in your chat.
Okay, sorry.
Rachel will get it, and then she'll probably collect a few things and say, hey, you guys, I have something I want to share. And so then Rachel, where are you from?
Originally, I am from Ashland, Ohio, and now I live in beautiful Whitefish, Montana.
Yay. And she's probably rooting for those Cleveland Indians, are you not?
Oh my gosh, it's Game 7 now. It's crazy.
I know.
I have to say, I'm very excited that it's gone to Game 7. I mean,
I know, it is kind of exciting. I mean, the Indians never win anything, so this is very exciting if you're from Ohio.
Both of those teams have a track record of being a bit stuck. So maybe
they should all be watching today. Well, we should have sent this to them. They could be in the
Yes, there you go.
right now.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
All right, we want to give you a chance. Oh, we want to tell you a little bit about kind of our overview on things, because this relates to everything we do. This is sort of what we refer to as the Thrive approach, and meaning the goal of this, or really the meaning of this, is to have a successful and fulfilling life, business, and in all of your relationships.
And so with anything that we do, we take a three-prong approach. We actually focus on the me, which is dealing all with your style, your reactions, what's going on with you, managing that. And this, our programs are called Mojo that deal with that. And then there's the
we, which has to do with relationships, has to do with how you interact and relate to the world around you, and in some respects within you. So that's going to come up today as well.
And then the business, and this is doing strategy sessions. We call them clarity strategy sessions. And this is when we work with businesses. It's a 2-day offsite. When we work with individuals, there's a VIP session, and it's all about getting clear about what do you want to do and how you're going to do that.
So we want to give you that focus first, because that's the big picture. And today's talk about getting unstuck is really going to be focused on the me. And this is about the mojo part of it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And Rachel, you can turn off your video for now, and then we'll pop back in when we're doing these tech Excellent. Thank you. Today is all about the me, and it's about getting unstuck. So this is really how to work with your action blocks, how to shift your negative thinking, and how to access your natural resources so you feel inspired and have that energy to move forward and actually create what you want. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Now we want you to interact with us a bit, and we'd love for you to go into that chat box and give us your first name and where you're from. We also want you to be thinking about right now what is that one thing in your life that you're longing to do but don't, or some place in your life where you realize you're stuck, because it's going to be helpful to have something like that on your mind. All right?
And I'm just going to pause here, and then you can, Rachel, let us know if people have chat. Let us know who they are and where they're from. Put on my glasses.
And if not, we can carry on.
Carry
Hopefully
on.
they will. But
we'll answer the second question later. So if you just, for right now, just give us a few people, share your first name, that's all we need, and where you're from. And I guess we'll carry on.
Everyone's shy this morning.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to know. This is going to be interactive, so it might be a stretch for you guys.
Maybe it was too much to say where you're from. You know, they're either
your first name.
I have one. I have Nicole, and she is from San Diego. Ooh, it's beautiful there.
Oh,
yes.
Wow, bet you it's nice weather there.
Yes. Welcome, Nicole.
Yes. Thank you for the brave soul that came forward. We do know some of you are out there, but we get it's not always easy to come forward.
Okay.
But we'll carry on a bit and give you a chance to warm up. And if you want to, you can also type in what's that one thing you're longing to do.
And just to kind of prepare you, we're going to have interactive experiences. We're also going to ask as we go through your stuff, so we can even do some coaching for those of you that are stuck, so you can move forward later on. Okay.
Oh yeah. So we want to tell you a little more about us. So
should you turn off the video? Or,
oh yeah, maybe you don't need to see that picture. Although I do like that picture. We'll go to so you can see us.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So what I want to say about getting unstuck is, first off, a lot of my life has been about this very journey of learning how to get unstuck. I have been stuck many, many times, and probably the real sticky spot in my life was in my early 20s when I was diagnosed with the cancer process, and actually given 6 months to live at one point. I had 4 different cancers, so it went on for a period of time, and a huge part of my getting my health back was when I began to uncover, write about, and share my own story from my past, which was pretty traumatic, and there was a lot of things in it, one of which was that nobody else was willing to talk about any of what was coming up for me. But that writing and that sharing was a huge part of how I believe I got unstuck in terms of my health. And I had a strong desire to write a book at that point. Now, this may not help you when I tell you this, but that book has never actually materialized. And it is still something that's pretty significant on my wish list. You'll hear more about it later. However, the journey of writing and sharing those stories has really helped me develop my body of work, the way I work with people, what I'm passionate about. It's a huge piece of what I share and use in the work I do up at the Haven and the various programs we do. And what has happened for me is I still get stuck. I won't pretend that I don't get stuck. I spiral. I get into stuck spots. However, I've come to recognize it. I can recover, and I can utilize the learning. And that's actually when what I've really done is change my relationship to my stuckness. And part of that had to do with developing a much better relationship with someone I fondly call Polly, my procrastinator. And Polly, my procrastinator, has been the person who at one point I considered to be my nemesis. She was constantly getting in my way, making it difficult for me to get undone, distracting me, doing all sorts of things. And finally, at one point, I started to look at her and realize that part of me has been a huge protector of me. There were times in my life would have been incredibly dangerous or unhealthy for me to put much of my writing out and to do some of those things. So what could seem like Polly's persistent, irritating behavior was actually helpful and made a huge difference. If you want to know more about Polly, feel free to visit my website where I have a blog post. It's more personal writing. There have been a lot of other things that I've done with my writing along the way. So that's a little bit about me, and you'll hear more about what I've learned and how I get unstuck today.
And for me, Chris Marie, I wouldn't say that I'm a procrastinator. I actually took Susan's first Mojo class, though, because I have found places that I do procrastinate. I was an achiever, so I was, got good grades. I was in the 1988 Olympics. That's that picture behind us. It's the Seoul Olympics. As a rower, went on, became an engineer, worked at, got my MBA and worked at Arthur Andersen, worked at Boeing. And all those things, I was just like Miss Dynamo. And I felt like I was unstoppable. And until I hit my mid-30s and my body stopped me. I had a chronic back injury from the Olympics that I went to every doctor around and could not get that fixed. I later then started to have chronic fatigue. I had allergies. I had skin issues, digestive issues. It was like on and on and on. And so what I recognized, what I had to get curious about is what was going on. Why couldn't I make myself do stuff? Because I was a real pro at making myself do anything. All that pain, the reason I was such a good rower is I could endure so much pain in my body. And so when I became curious about what was happening, I recognized I was operating outside of myself. I was working to try to please everybody around me, and I wasn't really connecting to me. And who I am is much more of an expressive person. So I started painting, I started dancing, I even became an actress here in our little Whitefish Theater. And those expressive arts were so enlivening to me, but they had been like, that's not okay. And when I started doing those things and I started speaking up and saying what I really felt, my health got better. And one of the things, so then I went along and I had my personal stuff, like I do my creative stuff out here and I do work. It was very compartmentalized and segmented. And it's only been the last probably about 3 years where I've really started to integrate my expressive natural tendencies into my work. And that's one of the reasons we're doing the webinars. That's why we actually speak and do the coaching. I'm finally realizing that it's okay for me to call myself a life coach. I've been a life coach for 7 years. I've taught in both at the Haven and Martha Beck.
And she's only just in the next couple of days going to have that website up. But we'll talk more about that because that was
I found my spot of procrastination and it's putting myself out as a life coach and a mind body coach. So yes, more on that later.
All right.
Okay, so I want to go back to full screen. How do I do that?
Okay, let me drive this. And there we go. And now we'll come back to bring up the slides.
And so that's Susan, and then you get to meet Polly, the procrastinator. That's me, and then let's help you get unstuck, because that's what today's all about. Okay.
And just, I don't know if, Rachel, I assume you'll pop in if we hear from someone. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. And again, hopefully you'll tell us that what is that thing that you're longing to do but don't. And again, feel free to. And
I'll just check, Rachel, do you have anybody that's let us know what they want to do but they don't?
Not quite yet. I'm just going to write them on here and give them a little shove in the right direction.
You also see, I noticed it looks like I'm showing some questions and some chat. Is that,
I'm
not sure if we go there.
Questions, I just have chat.
Okay, I have a question coming in from below. So maybe we'll go back out and I'll just check that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go back out and make sure that...
Oh, we've got Sherry from South Dakota, Danny from Chicago, and this is Sarah in Whitefish. Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
We're also hearing a bit more about some of the things that you are thinking about, like dumping some heavy cases. Oh, okay. I bet you I can guess who that's from. I think those have to do with legal files and things like that.
Oh.
I have 2 things that are looming large: writing my book and dropping some of those big cases. I know. Okay.
Oh, so these are like Sherry. Legal cases.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Takes us a while sometimes to figure it out. Heather from the Okanagan. We are so glad that we figured this out. And sorry we did not catch you earlier.
There's Heather and a Havenite.
All right. This is cool. Thank you so much, Sherry, Danielle. Oh, we're getting people now. And Inger?
Guys, I don't have any of that on my
side. I know. I guess
okay.
We're just going to have to do this part. Oh, well.
We'll keep coming back to this now that I know how to get here. And I'm going to go back to our screen.
I'm so glad you guys are answering, and we're too shy. We just have Rachel set up with the wrong permissions. So.
That's probably, yeah. Okay, the things you learn once again. All right, now we're going back to
Okay. And some of the things like dropping cases that you don't want to be doing, a lot of times it can be things like I want to lose weight, but I can't. I don't eat well.
Well, and just knowing a little bit about that, dropping cases and writing books, sometimes the two things you want to do can be in conflict. Because I'm guessing the one probably has something to do with the workload that you do, Sherry, and the other is this passion you have and what you want to do more of. And I know for myself, that can be a big thing that can come up.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just jotting down the pieces that we have, the examples.
and I remember somebody else who, I don't know if they're on or not, was talking about moving. They have a big move
Right.
coming up, and that was a huge part of why they wanted to come. They may not have been able to attend today, but that could be a big.
And somebody that we're working with is actually, she wants to do a career transition. She has a really stable job, but it doesn't fulfill her, and she's really wanting to move forward. So we'll talk about those types of pieces as we go.
Because that's a big thing when they're conflicting perspectives.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is what happens when you feel like you want.
This sometimes feels like my book. Not always, but sometimes.
It's like, yeah, I want to go forward, and I'm in quicksand. Like, I'm just not moving forward. I say I want to do this, and then nothing seems to happen. I mean, this happened. So even with my life coaching, yes, I want to be a life coach. I said that in 2009. I did basic training. I did master training. I did mind-body training. And it's like, okay, when are you going to put yourself out as a coach? I started teaching in the Coaching Institute, still not putting myself out as a coach. And so, yeah, I want to, but it just doesn't materialize. So those are the situations that we're talking about.
In case any of you really know what quicksand is, that's not quicksand. That's just sand. But it looks like quicksand, and it feels like it when you're that deep into it. So,
and yet you just can't move forward. Okay, and the typical approach, and I have been a professional at this, is just try harder. And that's how I did my rowing approach. Okay, I was small and nobody thought anything. I'll just work harder, and it worked. It worked a lot. So it just became my superpower.
Now, often what happens here is we want to get control, and the way that we get control is through our mind. Like Chris Marie said, we want to use our willpower. We want to override the criticism or bully ourselves into making it better. I mean, I used to do like knockdown, drag out fights with Polly. You got to get out of here, Miss Procrastinator, because I got to get shit done. Now, granted, Polly won. Polly was way more determined than I was at that point in time. But someone like Chris Marie, you listen to those credentials, you listen to the things she's accomplished, and it is amazing. So that side that can do the overdrive can be effective and will work. It just is not sustainable.
There's another model that people talk about, the elephant and the rider. And the rider is the mind, and but if you're really sitting on top of an elephant that weighs, however many pounds an elephant weighs, that rider has little effect. And that's where I got to. I had such a strong rider over my elephant, and then in my mid-30s, my elephant just said, screw you, I am not going to do this. I'm going to
put that rider right off. Okay.
So it works for a while, but it's not sustainable when you try to overpower with your mind and just try harder. And it really, it's like somebody once said, Chris Marie, you're like a Ferrari with the brakes on. And that's what this is. It's like you just burn your energy because internally you're working against yourself. And you can feel like a fraud because you're trying so hard, and the physical issues emerge and are really painful. So
the reason that that's happening is because there is something that does not want to do what it is you think you're so passionate about. And often that's for some good reason. Now, this was really, really in my relationship work with Polly. I call it my inner work with Polly. Mm-hmm. I really had to come to appreciate why Polly was doing such a good job of protecting me. And this varies for people, but there's usually some good reason that you're stalling. And until you're willing to look at that resistance and consider it, it can be tough.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about just even my resistance for the life coaching because, I grew up with a dad who had a strong opinion about what was credible and good out in the world, and being a business person was good. And so I became that. And being a life coach, oh my God, that has no credibility. So there was some part of me was like, no, you're gonna get blasted if you actually show up and say that. So
we want to talk about how you can access more of your resources, because we think this is critical, and how you can shift that dynamic we showed you earlier with the mind over functioning.
Yes.
And the key to that is really a word we use, and Chris Marie will see this on that coaching page when it comes out, is the idea of embodiment coaching. And really that starts with, well, first off, what it means is that you can access more of all of your resources. Mm-hmm. You can connect to and get curious about the parts of you that don't want to do it. And until we make that kind of contact, we really will stay stuck.
Mm-hmm. And burning that rubber.
Yes, Polly and I really did need to do some relationship counseling to move on. So,
okay, and we really believe the body is a doorway. It's the doorway to all your resources: emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. And the problem is, in our culture, we walk around really from the heads up, thinking our body is just a tool to help us accomplish things. And I can tell you, when I had a back injury when I was rowing, I felt betrayed by my body. Like, how dare you get hurt? Like, you're just the enemy. And I was so critical of my body. And so we often just kind of disconnect from our body and try to solve things from here up. You see, there's a different ratio, though. Our brain is much smaller than our body, and our body actually processes many more bits of information through all our senses than our mind does.
So we want to give you a chance to tap into this, give it a go. And we're going to start off with a grounding experience.
Yeah, so for this, what I'd like you to do, if you can, if you're driving, I understand, but if you can, sit down with your feet flat and just let your eyes close, or at least go to a soft focus. And just before you do anything, just notice what your mind is, what you're thinking about. And also notice any emotional energy that you're aware of. And then become aware of any physical sensations that you have. And now what I want you to do is turn your attention down towards your feet. Just become aware of your feet. You might want to wiggle your toes, or even if they're in shoes, or swipe your feet so you're waking up the bottoms of your feet. And imagine your feet could be getting heavier, as if you've got like concrete blocks on them, or root cords coming out of the soles going down through the building, down through the earth. Just that downward energy. And as you're aware of your feet, also become aware of your ankles and calves, and your knees and thighs, and your whole leg area. You're just noticing. And also become aware of your seat, your bum in the seat, and that downward energy is another opportunity if visualization works. Just imagine you have like a grounding cord coming down out of your tailbone, going through the chair, into the floor, down to the center of the earth. That downward energy. And then feel your back against the seat. You can even wiggle and kind of make contact to that. And then see if you can rest into the support of the chair. There's nothing you need to do, and that chair is right there supporting you. And then become aware of your shoulders, the tops of your shoulders, the outsides of your shoulders. Not trying to change things, just becoming aware. And then your arms, biceps, elbows, forearms, wrists, and hands. And then come back and become aware of your neck, the base of your neck, the sides, your neck meets your skull. All you're doing is checking in here. And then your whole head area, the back of your head, your crown, over to your forehead, your jaw. Just become aware of your whole body in the chair, just relaxing into the support of the chair. And now turn your attention a little more inward to the whole inner area of your body, including your throat, your chest and heart area, your stomach, low belly, all the way down to your pelvic floor, like you're taking the time to arrive inside of you. And now just from this place, just notice what you're thinking. Notice any emotional energy. And notice any physical sensations. And just being curious right now about the difference between when you started doing a little bit of connecting to your body and now what you're aware of. And you might just want to jot that down. We're going to check in with you, but not right now. We have another piece of this, but we want you to have a kind of a marker of the two states. And it doesn't mean that you feel better now. You might just feel more. So,
right. So, what I want you to do now is I want you to just begin to shift. And I want you to begin to imagine that you have accomplished this goal or this dream or this, what it is that we ask you to think about something that you really longed for or a place in your life where you're stuck. And just right now, imagine that you've gotten unstuck. You're where you want to be. You've accomplished this big dream, this goal, this wish of yours. You're doing it. And see if you can let yourself really breathe that in. Notice what it's like, what you're doing here in this place of accomplishment, of fulfillment. Notice what it feels like to have accomplished your goal. Notice what sensations you have in your body as you're standing and being in that accomplishment. Notice what feelings you have. Really let yourself sink in and breathe into that sense of accomplishment. What is that like? And you may, and if you do, notice what interrupts that. Some of you may have already been interrupted. Maybe you're still in that place of expansion. But see if you can begin to notice if anything interrupts the ability to keep being in that sense of accomplishment. And also pay attention to see if there's any type of resistance that starts to come up, where you notice a little niggling of some sort of resistance to really filling out and staying in this place of accomplishment. See how much information you can gain about that. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? What are the behaviors? Anything that may be interrupting or creating some resistance. Now, I want you to begin, if you have that piece of paper, to jot down what you noticed, if you had any interruptions, or if you had any kind of resistance that started to come out, to jot down what came up for you. Now, I know we didn't do that for very long, and some of you may have actually been able to stay in that expanded place. You also want to make sure that if you didn't already, write down, and I think you probably haven't, because I haven't asked you to, write down what it was like in that place of having accomplished something. What did that feel like? What did you notice? And this is a place where we would love to hear from some of you. And I'm going to go out of the slide deck to see, because sometimes I may not be picking up that you've actually tried to communicate with us. So I'm going to go back out. And, okay. It doesn't look like this time that's happening. So, nope, it's not. All right. Okay. There's some people. There we go.
Oh, they're there.
All right.
Giant smile on my face.
Like that. That must be in the place of accomplishment, Sarah. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm passionate about. I'm not named. Okay.
So a children's book somebody's working on that there. It's been in the works for many years.
Yeah, I know that place.
Yeah. And you don't have to name your procrastinator.
It just helped me to give her a name, to fill her out a little bit. So,
And if anybody's willing to kind of share in the chat box what the positive feeling was like, 2 or 3 words, And if you noticed anything that interrupted it, and I'll say for me, I'll give you my examples while we're waiting for folks to, for me, in that positive place. So here I imagined, I have a full, thriving coaching practice, and I felt bigger in my body. I felt confident. I stood up. I was smiling. Felt really good. And when I started to notice that, there's some people, ease in my chest. Go ahead.
Of looseness in my breathing. It feels very normal. I've gone to this place before, and yet I can still feel stuck. So
right.
that sounds like, remember when I talked about the difference between a disruption, when you actually feel you totally go away from that place of peace, and sometimes there's what we call just a bit of resistance, and that is to look at. Like the other thing to be putting in the chat box now is what did interrupt you? What was, if you did come up with any resistance, and to describe that to the best of your ability.
And Danielle says, joy, peace, feeling satisfied when I felt like I accomplished it. I can relate to that. Ease in my chest is Sherry. Looseness in your breathing, Sherry. Yeah. It feels normal. I've gone to this. Oh, that's Heather. Okay, great. Yeah. So what interrupted?
We got even more.
Okay.
Yeah. Expansion, peaceful, and somebody shared the resistance was a sense of I'm asking too much of myself.
Who said that?
That's Sherry. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you know that one.
Yes, I'm asking too much of myself.
A little nasty voice heckling about money. Okay, that's another big one. Yes. I feel like I'm just grabbing some of the things you guys have said. Danielle's, when those feelings when I felt like I had a claw, I was grasping my gut really tight. So a physical sensation came in, a thought process around the money. Those are great. It was as if it would not be a resistance in this place, but this is when it's in my mind. Okay. So
so it doesn't feel resistant when it stays in your mind. I think that's what you're saying, Heather. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Resistance.
So people, and what other people will think. Failure.
I relate to that,
yes.
Sarah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those are great. Those are classic examples. Like, I have a lot of different things.
And Ingrid, did you have anything that you had expansive and peaceful, but did anything actually interrupt that? I'd just be curious. For me, what interrupted was, one, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can handle this. So self-doubt, and then I thought, oh, I won't have the support I need to actually make this happen. Mm-hmm. So kind of a sense of abandonment in that.
Yes, and I know from myself, often what can interrupt me is a lot of negative thinking about myself. I'm going to fail at this. This will never happen. That's Polly. I know her language well. And or you better be doing something that's a little more immediate and fun, because you never know when you're going to die. She's very good at that too. Very dramatic. But I also know the place that comes up for me now is often actually more sorrow, some grief, feelings that I really, would prefer not to cry or prefer not to feel. But that's a huge way that I can distract myself from actually staying in the expansion.
Yeah. So I was thinking my feeling of abandonment, so I'm not going to have the support I need, would be an emotional one. Yeah. And the thought, I'm not going to make money, I'm not going to get the clients, all those would be the negative thoughts for sure.
I totally agree. You were saying, at this point it was a bit short. So if you'd sat with it longer, things may have popped up. And that is often the case. Sometimes it takes a little more time. When we talk about this idea of the body as a doorway, you have to get fairly practiced and then be willing to sit. And sometimes if you've done a lot of meditating, if you're really good at the sitting, sometimes you actually have to.
You may disconnect from the body.
Yeah, and so you have to even do that a bit longer.
And even the body, our mind can go, processes really fast. Our bodies are much slower animals that take time, and so sitting with it and allowing it to respond is so we're doing this short just because we're on this call and we're moving you along, but for sure you can do this longer and see what pops up.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. I think I've gotten everyone. Sherry, I live in my head, so not being walked through, entering my body. Let's see. Has resulted in feeling much more solid and strong. Oh, that's a great awareness. That's often for, when you really get, the body is a doorway. That's huge.
A lot of times when people connect to their body, they're aware of, I'm actually more tired. I've been overdriving myself. They can get sleepy because they haven't rested, or they can actually feel more feelings because our emotions are actually physical energy in our body. So when we connect, we just get more information about what is really happening versus overriding it.
Yes. So now I'm going to go back to the main screen here so that we can go through a few more bits of information here.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming in, and I'm glad I figured out how to see it. So what type of interruptions? You shared some of that. There were some mental things, some physical things.
Well, these are, I wanted to back up. There's reactions, and there's resistances. So reactions are louder. They kind of come in and interrupt what's happening. Resistances are kind of on the edges, and it's more, my sense of it, it's more of a tightening. But both can interrupt your sense of expansion into that place of already having it.
I think of the resistance as an invitation or a moment. It's kind of like a knock at the door. You could either pay attention. It hasn't totally disrupted you. A reaction will totally take you out usually. But the resistance is sort of going to knock at your door. Knock, knock, knock. Mm-hmm. You know.
So when I have a really let's just talk about the 4 types of reactions. So we kind of see these in categories. There's a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical.
Yeah, and one way to think about like the spiritual is that with the spiritual blocks, that's often where we tend to compartmentalize or rise above things. Like, okay, I'm actually not gonna worry too much about all these things that are going on because I'm just going to go to my meditative place and that will resolve it. And that can be a way to transcend. Or the other way to do it's probably a little more familiar is to compartmentalize. Well, that's this part of my life. This is this part of my life.
That's what I was doing so I did get in touch with my expressive, creative side, and that was great, but I kept it very separate from my work life because I wanted to be seen very as professional. Mm-hmm. And so, I'll be on the stage, but nobody else in my life will know about that or the people that I'm working with. I don't actually talk personally to my clients. That's another way to stay compartmentalized.
And the mental is when you start thinking about it. We have some pictures to show you.
So the idea, if there is a spiritual compartmentalization, really what you want to be doing in that is finding ways to actually integrate. And that feels very threatening at the time.
I know, like with Chris Marie, some of the things that really have stood out to me was when you actually brought us in to work with the community theater because you were actually blending your world completely. Mm-hmm. And we've actually now gone to her gym and talked about how conflict and health and business. So there's much more of a blending of the worlds.
Right. And I'm actually willing to say that I'm a life coach. I'm willing to say, I'm just willing to share much more and even share I never used to tell anybody about anything. It was all about you.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we mean by the compartmentalization. Or, when you actually go to do your meditation, if that's your form, to sort of transcend it, to make sure that you do pay attention to what is niggling at you during your yoga practice or during your meditation practice, and be willing to include that. Not, they say it's not about getting rid of your thoughts. It's about letting your thoughts come through. And sometimes it's helpful to actually notice them.
Yeah.
So
just be aware if any of you relate to that, the spiritual reaction there. The mental reaction is where we get very mental and we let our thoughts scare us. So those of you that we're talking about, the bills, what about money? Or we're not going to be able to survive. I can so relate to that one.
Or you're going to be asked. People are going to ask too much from you. That's kind of a mental, that's another one.
It's a belief system. And I didn't realize that my thoughts are not me. My thoughts are just, they're kind of like a little treadmill. And if I believe them, I'm going to react and I'll feel afraid, and then I won't do what I need to do. So the idea is, can I actually take them out and look at them and become aware of my habitual thinking that I'm using to control me? Because that's usually coming from a part like Polly, some part of us that's, no, this is very scary.
And a lot of the work we do is around looking at these stories we tell ourselves, and can we begin to work at them in a simple way to tease out a story when you're telling yourself that, like, is it true? Mm-hmm. Is it true? Is it absolutely true? Mm-hmm. And then, sometimes what I'll do is it's like, can I find evidence, any evidence that this is not true? Like, I know for me that was a huge piece of, like, even with my personal writing, my desire to write this book, I can go into such a frustration point. I'm doing nothing. And then I'm a failure. I've got, my writing is, it's a quick spiral. And if I say, is that really true? And then I think, no, actually, how many blogs have I put out?
Oh, over 200.
I have
more than 200.
Yeah, and I have something published, and I do have.
Actually, and you have like 50 articles published in 406 Women.
So then I start to grab evidence that is just not true. And if I can get to at least 3 points of evidence, I usually can begin to shift out of where I was.
You've also taken writing workshops. I'm finding your evidence. You should be finding it.
I was just at a great retreat. So it's a matter of that.
And so, those of you that may know Byron, there's the Byron Katie, the work is a tool that we use here. We're just giving you a short form, though. When you're on the fly and you need to loosen, you notice, wow, I'm really beating myself up. Finding the brain loves evidence. What happens is when we're on that negative thought, it's like we're on this highway in our brain and there's no off ramps. When you start to ask the question, is it true? And start to find evidence where it's not true, that creates these off ramps and there's more space and you feel less trapped in your story. There is another reality.
Yes.
Okay, so that's when you're having a mental reaction.
It's so funny because I'm going through that myself right now.
Okay.
I'm telling myself we don't have enough time.
I can tell that.
And so
She's
as
rushing.
we were rushing, this is so.
I said, look at that. I put, well, you can't read it. It's the opposite of it. I said, don't rush.
But that did not help. But what did help was she was talking about find 3 points of evidence that it's just fine. And I was able to kind of think about times where I thought we didn't have enough time. We had plenty of time. Just different things. I could kind of work to tease that one apart.
I'm glad.
Okay.
On that
all
right. Okay. So the next one is an emotional reaction. And this can be either an explosion, you get reactive and then you snap at somebody, or an implosion where you're like, I'm just so bad, I make myself wrong, and it's kind of a depression and a sinking in.
And often the key to this, and it really can take on a lot of forms because often you need to let yourself express. Like so much, this comes up for me, especially with my writing. So much of one of my biggest blocks around my writing is that I actually feel a tremendous amount. The story I say I long to write is about my history, is about my past. And I hate to cry and I hate to do, so what happens is I cut myself off from my emotions. And usually if Chris Marie's around and I've been writing is I'm actually fairly nasty to her, I'm like, don't ask me what I've been writing, and so until I actually let myself sink in and feel, which underneath that is usually some grief, some loss, some sadness. It's not always anger, but I have to do something to let myself begin to move it.
And the key is not to make yourself wrong, that you have this emotional either in or out. So often in our culture, it's like, no, you need to be calm, you need to be nice and polite, and that just cuts off your energy. So what you want to do is find a safe way to express what is happening. And for the imploders, it's noticing, because that's where you get stuck in depression when you're real. And I had a depression phase where I was like, I just can't do anything. And the key to that was actually letting myself feel and actually feel my anger, which was what really spurred and helped me figure out, wait a minute, I don't want to be a freaking engineer.
I have to tell you, in the beginning, she did that anger piece through parts she'd play, and she would really be big in these parts. She'd practice because she was in community theater, being angry. Now she's gotten pretty darn good at it. She's more willing to, and it's clean, it's clear. It's, she brings it up.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
So and just notice if you have.
And the key to really getting to these expressions, if you are someone who blocks on the emotional level, I think, there's a lot we talk about that in the Build Your Mojo and some of the other programs we do, because it takes time to begin to breathe and sink into your body. It can be difficult to just allow those emotions. There's probably a good reason you cut them off. That's what I learned. There was a good reason I stopped feeling them.
Yeah. And so your container's gotten pretty darn tight and good at suppressing and then popping off. And so it is kind of a slow opening process.
Yeah, and for any of you who have been at the Haven, this is a huge piece of what the Haven has to offer and sort of the integration and that we think coming more and more vital to be brought back into people's lives so that they can continue to work with this.
Okay. The other reaction is a physical reaction. And this is one I know really well. Physical reaction is when you get physical symptoms or you get really busy instead of, stepping forward and doing what you really want to do. There's lots of distractions to do. And this was true even, you have a good poly example. Why don't you give your poly example of you're getting busy?
The getting busy thing for me is like I was supposed to have put out the invitation for this a while ago. Needless, the day that I was writing something about it, Polly interrupted. And, I was going to write about procrastination. And so I looked it up. And the next thing you know, I was reading articles about procrastination. I was watching TED Talks about procrastination. All that sounds really good, but I was not writing that damn post. And the next thing you know, well, just like Polly, she took me off into other things. I started reading about the elections, about what was happening with Hillary and Donald Trump. I started going, then I thought, I need to get out of this. Oh, yeah, we have this weekend workshop. I need to go run a couple errands. I actually should pick up some stuff for dinner. And Rosie needs to go to the dog park. The day was gone. I did not finish the post. I did not write the post. Polly had taken over. And so that's what I mean by the busyness.
So that's the busy physical distraction. The other thing is actually getting symptoms. And one of the things that we were a part of an organization that I wasn't happy with. And, but we had to do these offsites and go do them. And I'd say, yeah, we can do that. And then as it would get closer and closer, I'd be like, oh,
24 hours.
The day before, it'd be like, oh, Susan, or the morning of, I'm too sick. I can't go. And I really did feel sick. I'd, gotten the flu or the cold or whatever. And so Susan would have to go alone. And really what was happening is I wasn't really acknowledging what I felt. I didn't want to be doing this. I wanted to be doing something else, but something told me I should do it. So I'd say yes, and then I'd wind up getting sick and undermining all
And
that.
It's not that she really wasn't physically sick.
No, I was.
But,
I had a cold.
However, because those symptoms are real. The same thing really was true with my cancer. I used to have, but what shifted it was that when I started to talk to my tumors. I used to have tumor talks to hear what they had to say. And that was a huge part of me learning more about addressing physical symptoms. And I think it's a huge piece of how you can work with them.
Even my back pain, when I recognized that my chronic back pain was a big source of that, is me not dealing with my anger towards my coach, towards my dad. And when I started expressing that, my back got better. Now I can still repress it, and so I have to look at the areas that I'm not being true to myself and speaking up and saying what I really think, feel, and want. So
okay. I'm gonna go out of here,
because we'd love to know which one of these you relate to. If anybody can relate to the reactions are so valid, or so my brain says.
Isn't that the truth? Very good.
All the distractions on what you want to do, probably.
Yes. Okay. I'm just gonna.
What are you doing?
I was trying to move down, but there weren't any more.
Okay. So if you have any comments, please send them in, because we'd love to hear if you relate to the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, or the physical. Any of those.
A distractor. Love that, Sarah. Yes. Okay. And welcome you. Hopefully, I don't know if it helps to name your procrastinator. It did help me and my distractor. That would be another good one to name.
Yes.
I just packaged them all into Polly. Poor Polly gets a bad rap.
And I think reactions are so valid, or so my brain says. It is in that place of fear, because some part of us is afraid, so it's very convincing. And it says, this is dangerous. Don't go there. And so we don't. So,
the spiritual. Somebody could relate to that.
Yeah.
And trying to even. It sounds like you can use that spiritual piece to get you motivated. Now that's actually. That's an interesting one, Heather, because sometimes it depends on how you do it. If you get too attached to, okay, I've got to go do my. My spiritual practice or whatever, it can actually become something a little bit where you could burn yourself out on it, or it's not as effective.
Yeah.
So it's a good one to be aware of, and hopefully don't overuse it.
Right.
Chris Marie.
And the mental reaction, says Sarah, it all stays inside, and I go into a mental hole. Oh, wow.
And that, those sort of things, if you can find a way to get more comfortable with your stories, get more comfortable with your judgments, what you're telling yourself, because that's a rich, a landmine of opportunity to work with.
Yes.
All four. I love that. Okay.
Anger gets busy. I have all four, Danielle says. My inner lizard or procrastinator.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Okay. Now, how do we get the slides back?
Okay, I'm going to go back out of there.
Thanks for sharing, you guys. It's so fun to hear.
Okay, and here we go.
Okay.
All right.
So those are the reactions. And the key is you're not going to get rid of them. It's learning to work with them. And because they're a part of everything you're going to do. Especially if you're doing something new, you're going to bump into your reactions even more. And that's a good sign.
Sorry. So,
She wants to move forward.
Well, I do, because I'm getting worried about the timing. No, I don't know. No, I've settled down about that.
She's lying.
Just in last time. So moving forward, because I want to talk about this, because really the best thing I ever learned about how to work with my inner procrastinator Polly is that, one thing, to tell myself that I'm going to write a book is just like, I would be better if I said I was going to climb Mount Everest. That would be way easier to me than to write this book.
Probably would.
And, I would know exactly what to do. I could physically train, I could do it, blah, 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 blah. Now, but writing a book is just too much. So what I've learned is, how can I take steps? Really, literally, the first thing I did was I took a writing class, because I'm dyslexic. I struggle with that. So it was huge just to start doing something to learn how to overcome just that piece. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, okay, could I get a blog site? Yeah, I could do a blog site. Mm-hmm. And now I've done that. Could I write articles on a regular basis for a magazine? Yes, I can do that. Mm-hmm. Could I go to a writer's retreat? Now I've done that twice. I feel pretty,
and actually we've written a business book. Yeah. So it's not the personal one, but it's gone through 2 editors. It's really going to be published.
So I'm talking about this big, monstrous, I really want to do, this was my Mount Everest, this book. Now I realize whether I write the book or not at this point is not nearly as critical as what the wealth of richness it's provided me to write this book.
Yeah.
And, so that's a big one. And now Chris Marie, she was in my last Mojo class, and her thing was to get her coaching practice going, was kind of, I think, a broader thing. And literally, in her case, it was like breaking it down into steps. And it's funny, she's very good at that stuff of breaking down these things into practical steps. And then what I think what made a difference for you was recognizing you needed to support those steps in a different way.
Yes, and one of my steps was also looking for things that I actually like to do. Like I put out these daily quotes, and I like doing that. Yes. So it's using your energy, channeling it in a way that is a no-brainer. It's actually something you like to do. It's small enough that you'll be drawn to do it versus these forcing pieces. And anything can be broken down to a small enough step. So this is a Martha term, breaking it down to turtle steps. And even now with the things that you're wanting to do, what we'd like you to do is write down at least one step that you will take. But it has to feel like, that feels so small, it seems insignificant. I can get that done, no problem. So we want you to write that down so that you have something to take away that will propel you forward, just to do one easy little step.
And, sometimes it is hard to come up with that one next step. So another way, because we are different styles. Chris Marie likes to walk through the stepping stones to get to the big goal. Yeah. I like to see the big goal, so I see the book published. And then I go backwards. What would that involve? And I get all the way back to taking one class. So depending on whether you're a big picture, way out there in the future thinker, and it feels overwhelming, or you're kind of a more detailed person, either, find a way to break it down.
Mm-hmm. And if any of you want to share your steps, we're more than happy to hear them.
And we probably have to go do a different thing to do that.
And this is a process. And so it's not something like you heard Susan's 30-year story. But we do
That's why I'm a master, though, of getting unstuck.
And I'm on a 7-year, with my coaching thing. But, it is happening. And this is because we're bumping into real resistances. And this is where you might want or need more support when you are really trying to do something you really care about and there's something that's really resistant. And so this is what we said we talk about at the beginning. Susan test drove this Build Your Mojo program to kickstart your dreams. And it's a really neat experience. I was a student, and now I'm going to teach it with her this time.
Yes.
But I am getting my coaching page out because Rachel's going to help me do that by the end of this week. So and we have our last class today, so that's kind of exciting. And Build Your Mojo is really, if you keep procrastinating on something that you really want to do and you care about and you don't, or you go forward and then you stop and you give up, or you self-sabotage, or you just long to bring your ideas to fruition. And what you'll get is a roadmap, and this is kind of this piece. So, I want to jump forward because because this is a tip that I think you really want to give them about how to, if you do
I
the.
think Chris Marie is so excited about the Build a Mojo part. She's not going to give me a chance to speak at all, you know. But I love that she's so enthusiastic about it, because it really was a neat experience with the group that is finishing up today. And it, you know, a huge part of it is this one. I think one of the instrumental pieces is helping people get that sometimes, and I think this was big for you.
Yeah.
You think of your goal. Like Chris Marie has accomplished a lot out in the world. So usually her work isn't around figuring out the steps for the goal. She can, you know, how is it going to be measured? She knows how to measure herself. The real thing is how are you going to support yourself? What are the internal things you need to do to help you? And so one of the things we do in the Build Your Mojo is help you build what I call a Mojo Mandala, which helps you look at this big issue a little differently on how to accomplish it out in the world, and what's going to help you accomplish it inside yourself. What are the supports that are going to help you get there?
And I think this is so important. You can even think of it for yourself right now, for your goal. Like, what helps fill you up? Because I get so focused, I do that overdrive. Again, okay, so I'm gonna build my coaching page, I'm gonna do my daily quotes, and I'm gonna reach out to people. And what I was missing is, hey, actually having our relationship contact is important for me. Making sure I take care of my health is important. They're not like rewards, but if I'm not doing that part of the pie, then I'm gonna feel too driven. I get too driven, and it's just not very supportive.
Right.
So thinking for you, if you want to think about what actually supports you and helps you feel whole, so you can do this effort of going out and accomplishing this piece that's so important to you. Okay.
And there'll be some of the other things, like the roadmap and really looking at that. The other piece is we're going to go deeper into some of the things we talked about today. How to do more in terms of accessing your body. How to work with what I call leaks and kinks, you know, the things that get in your way. And also visioning how it will be when you do go forward. So there's a lot that is in this program. I mean, I'm excited about it, and I'm really excited about getting to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And we gave you kind of the tip of what supports you. So this program is 4 weeks, and it starts November 17th. And Susan is great. What you engaged in is she was right there emailing people who were struggling with their Mojo Mandalas, and she's like helping them out. And you were quite.
Sometimes I mean, not that any of you know me from Haven. I love being in a group setting. I love all that. But I also sometimes just like to get something, read something, answer back. That writing piece for me is important. Yeah. So email support is a way I can do that. And also, through a private Facebook group, I get on there. I read everything you write. I enjoy that. Mm-hmm. I've also this time added individual, because I know some people don't like group work. Like we do the group on Zoom, and so I see everybody.
That might scare you guys, but it's actually
not bad. It's a smaller group. It's not going to intimidate you, and I think it really does. Actually, people have built relationships. That's actually what I get excited about. Is not only are you getting to work with me, but you're getting to work with each other. So that's a really cool part of it.
Yeah, I just did my homework with my buddy last night for the class today, and that was really powerful. It builds more of a support experience. And the tuition for this is $197, and this is an experience of Sherry, who was in our last Build Your Mojo, and she was the one that's struggling with his career and life circumstances, and she felt like Susan provided a safe place to take an honest look at herself and gave her concrete tools to address her blocks and limiting beliefs. And the path of showing up weekly with a group of like-minded, supported people helped her stay accountable and discover the layers of what's been holding her back. And I love this. I am blown away about how much I've learned about myself in only 4 sessions. So it was a sweet quote. So that's one person who's taken it.
Let's just say that Chris Marie actually helped me get my part of the website up before she got hers to. Yeah.
That's true. So. Susan's been poking me about my coaching. So, and just in case, if that doesn't fit for you, we also have Find It Montana.
We would love it. Any of you out there that just want to drop into Whitefish, Montana on the weekend of November 11th to the 13th. And what's super cool about coming in person is you get to work with the horses, which is something I'm very passionate about. You get lots of other fun stuff as well. But that one I can't really do over Zoom or over the phone or in any of the other contexts. So,
and that's also going to happen in April.
yes.
And then we run Be Brave, which will start in March, which is a 6-week program, and that's really on the we. So how do you deal with relationship dynamics, which happens when you start to actually kind of go forward on these things that matter to you so much. You'll bump into people who don't want you to do that. So how do you deal with that?
That's been a big piece. And that, when we talked about that stool earlier, building up your
the
three-legged stool, and the me, that building up your mojo, building up your own sense of self. But as soon as you do that, at some point you're going to be relational in the world. And then it does get challenging. How do you stay in your own shoes and be interested and curious in somebody else? And that's really the emphasis in Be Brave, a huge part of that program. And along the way, we do one-on-one coaching. And we also often are working with leaders or people in their lives who have a business, and we come in and work with businesses and things like that.
We're just saying, and the link at the bottom is how, if you do want to register for Build Your Mojo, that's how you get there. And now I think we're just going to open it up to any questions that you guys have. And so we'll open the chat box, and just any questions about the content, what you're taking away in your action steps, or questions on the program. We'd love to hear anything that you guys have, because we like the contact. So,
uh-oh. Did I just? Nope. No, I think we're still there. It's all good.
But do you see the chat box? Where is the chat?
It's just, there's no one asking questions. So we're talking to ourselves, and that's okay.
Oh, and somebody, one question that came up, this was actually from the group, because there's some people that want to do the group, are considering doing the group again. And they were, for the dates, we start November 17th, and then for American Thanksgiving, we skip the week of the 24th. And so it'll be then, I think it's December 1st, 8th, and 15th, something like that.
And this time I'm running it in the evening instead of, because last time we did it during the day, and we wanted to see, which is easier for people to engage with. And a couple people had asked about doing it, not during their work time. So
yeah, so
giving that a go.
Made it easier.
Yes.
No questions, you guys? Comments? Any final thoughts? How about any final thoughts?
You may be punching in a bunch of stuff and I'm just missing it, but I don't think so. So maybe you just want to type so that at least I know you're out there. Are you there? How about that? Are you there? I'm typing to you. Are you there?
I still see you guys are all logged on. So.
Okay.
Is this the chat box? I don't know what that was.
Yeah. You can see there's things that we still need to learn about GoToWebinar. I've probably become a little more polished and comfortable with Zoom, because it's kind of like having a circle.
I think we're going to switch to Zoom. Okay, well, if there are no burning questions, and we will hate to see when we log off if there were, and you guys might be typing wildly because you've done that before and we haven't seen it. We apologize now if we're not getting your comments. But we've loved spending this time with you, and we hope you've gotten a little bit more about how to get unstuck, and we'd love to support you further if you want to hang out with us and do 4 more weeks.
Yeah, and if for some reason we have missed the chat and you did have something, yes, shoot us an email. Yeah. Again, I said, I'm good with that. I like that. All right.
Okay, so otherwise we will log off and say...
Stop the Nope, never mind.
Rachel will stop the recording.
Rachel, are you still there? I'm hoping so. If you're there, at least we can see. Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well,
okay.
You can go ahead and stop the recording at this point.